That's that real shit. Proud of the way niggas been running through these bricks.
What's good, everybody? What's good? It's your boy, Cardinal Bud Crawford. And we're back for another one. New topic, y'all. New topic. It's a hot day, man. Definitely is hot. Summer is here. Alright, the topic of the day is straight up Terence Crawford and the Boxing Hall of Fame are flexing hate on Errol Spence Jr. Alright, y'all, so what do I mean by the flexing hate? It's a lot of hate going on right now, and Errol Spence put out a comment kind of responding. I didn't think he was going to respond to what was going on, but he responded to what's going on. And his response was the fact that Errol Spence Jr. came back from that wreck in dominating fashion shows who got real dog in them. And it seems like the Hall of Fame was focused on hating on Earl, but they prove y'all wrong every time. And you know, when you hear these boxers, these old yesteryear boxers, you know, a lot of them are good guys. A lot of them are boxers I really like to watch when I was younger. But one thing I hate about these old boxers is, you know, ESPN, you know, sports news broadcasting stations and sports news broadcasting has a lot of influence over these yesteryear fighters, simply because a lot of these guys, they blow through their money. Guys like Mike Tyson, you know, there's countless others, but they blow through their money. And when they get in their later years in life, they usually, you know, they might not be completely broke, but a lot of them are broke. And a lot of these sports agencies or these sports news broadcasting companies, they have a lot of influence over these guys because they can control them basically with money. If those guys need some money, well, they'll pay them to say something that favors maybe a fighter or a basketball player, you know, anybody that they're trying to back at the moment. And we all know that ESPN backs Terence Bud Crawford, and you know, ESPN controls a lot of these fighters of yesteryear. You know, a lot of those guys work, they broadcast for ESPN, and they'll do the bidding of ESPN through themselves, you know, because boxing fans look to those guys as role models and believable figures of boxing fame, I guess you could call it. And basically what happens is you get a lot of those guys that come out for a specific fighter, and they'll basically hate on another fighter without any real rhyme or reason for them hating. And there's been a lot of hating going on the past couple of weeks. People say I'm hating on Terence Crawford. I'm just telling the truth. The truth hurts. The truth is what it is. Terence Crawford asked for something. He got what he asked for. And then he refused to do what he was supposed to do, which is sign the contract. And then he came out, you know, a couple of days ago with this weird little message that he put out, basically saying a whole bunch of nothing to defend himself because he was getting chewed up by the Errol Spence fan base and by the public, you know, the boxing fan public, for not signing off on the contract. And now you got this Boxing Hall of Fame situation. And it seems like people, they're using the Boxing Hall of Fame to hate on Errol Spence Jr. based on the fact, I guess they feel like he's not going to end up in the Hall of Fame one day, that he's not going to get his fist casted or whatever. But it's mostly these yesteryear boxers that are controlled by a certain sportscasting network that have come out and voiced their opinions basically for Terence Crawford. And a lot of them it's crazy because a lot of them are basing their argument off of what Terence Crawford, and most people are basing their argument of what Terence Crawford did in the past weight divisions. None of them are really going off what he's been doing as a welterweight. And we're talking about welterweight boxing. It's funny because when you talk to just boxing fans in general, Terence Crawford fans, any fan that's not an Errol Spence Jr. fan, they base everything about Terence Crawford off of what he did at 140 and 130. And none of it's based off what he has done as a welterweight, because what he's done as a welterweight has been mediocre at best. He's only fought one champion in the welterweight division, and that one champion was Jeff Horn. He did beat him, he got his title, but he hasn't faced up with any other champions in the welterweight division. And we've had Errol Spence in the past year, 3 years, because he took about a year off because of C with a 19, and then he had the car accident. So with all that combined, he ended up taking about a full year, maybe a year and a half off. So we didn't see him around, but within that 3-year span, he still managed to collect 3 welterweight title belts, which is pretty amazing. And nobody's giving him credit for the fact that he went through the crisis in the world, and still managed to gain a title belt. He went through the car accident, came back, took a simple fight, beat a simple fighter in Danny Garcia. But it was a masterful performance on his part, I guess you can call it, and still managed to come back and collect a 3rd title belt along with all the other stuff that he's done. And I find it interesting that none of those yesteryear fighters are actually bringing that fact up. None of those yesteryear fighters are talking about what he did, in the midst of a car accident, in the midst of a crisis in the world. They only want to bring up what Terence Crawford did at 140 and 130. Like that's the end all be all. And there's no reason to think that Errol Spence can beat him because he was dominant at 130 and 140. Well, Errol Spence has been dominant in the weight class that they're actually about to fight in, which is 147. And he's been dominating everybody at 147. So why wouldn't you base your argument off of what's been happening at 147 and not what somebody did 3 or 4 years ago, maybe even like 5 years ago? I find it to be kind of ridiculous at this point. I think it's just hate. It shows the influence that these companies have over some of these fighters. The Andre Wards, the Timothy Bradleys, the Mike Tysons of the world. It's countless other fighters that basically work for ESPN and other publications that, back Terence Crawford, and they're voicing their opinions solely for Terence Crawford. It's almost like a fluke when you talk to Terence Crawford fans, or you hear what these former fighters have to say about the situation. It's almost like they treat the fact that he won those 3 title belts as a full fluke, like it's something that only happened because Terence Crawford didn't get there first. For lack of a better word. It's like they feel like if Terence Crawford would have got there first, he would be holding those 3 title belts. And I completely disagree, because Terence Crawford had plenty of time to take those title fights when they were available, especially that Ugas fight. He could have another belt right now if he would have taken that Ugas fight when it was available, and when Errol Spence was actually pursuing Manny Pacquiao. But they don't bring up any of these points. They only shoot the jab to the fact that they feel like Terence Crawford is a better fighter. And there is no real, they have no real basis for why they even feel like that. And they're not basing it off of welterweight boxing. They're basically just basing it off of what he did in the past. And, you know, I'm kind of disappointed in some of these guys because, you know, I like Mike Tyson. I'm not a Mike Tyson hater. You know, I like Roy Jones. I like Antonio Tarver. You know, I like Tim Bradley. But the fact that they work for these companies and the fact that these companies are paying them for their opinion, it kind of shows you how the boxing world works and how much influences fans. You know, I wish these guys would just remain neutral on a topic, but I know that they can't because they work for certain companies, so they can't just remain neutral. They have to ride with whoever that company is backing and whoever that company is paying them to talk about. Is it fair? No, it's not fair. But like I said before, it's not fair that Errol Spence gets to have everything go his way based off the fact he's the unified champion. But he is, and he is. He definitely did collect all those title belts. He deserves to be the A side, and he deserves to have influence over that fight, whether people like it or not, and whether people accept it or not. They shouldn't be able to bash Errol Spence because he's having success, because they definitely wouldn't be bashing Terence Crawford if he had accomplished what Errol Spence had accomplished. And you know, at this point it's just kind of ridiculous, man. It's just basically hate. And you know, the hate is real. I said that in my last video. The hate is definitely real, and the hate, you know, the hate can't be stopped sometimes, man. And the only way to get past it is to try to do what I do, which is just push the truth and put the truth out there and let people know that there are varying opinions about the same topic. And just because those guys are celebrities and former boxers doesn't mean that their opinion is the end-all, be-all. It's your boy Cardinal Red, man. It's hot out here. I think I'm going to end it right there for now. Hit me up on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTubes. You're more than likely to get a response on YouTube than those other platforms. Hit that like button for me. Share. Tell a friend. Subscribe, all that good stuff. It's your boy. And I think we're out of here.
Hold up, let me roll up. Your money, my pocket's rolled up.